Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Caffeine and Sensu Beans podcast. I am joined by Chiwin, my co-host. Chiwin, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I just chilling right now, you know, just trying to just sit in life, So it
Yeah,
is. How are you?
same, kind of chilling. Yeah, watched the fight last night, the McGregor versus Poirier fight. Dude, it was
Yeah.
nuts, dude. ESPN Plus has to get their stuff fixed, dude. All right.
Dude, ESPN Plus is just horrible, dog.
It's yeah, dude, it's
Why
trash.
the connection was trash?
It started crashing like around 7, from 7 to 8. It was just crashing, couldn't get on, and it happened like uh for folks in on the West Coast. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, dude, we paid 70. You have to be a member to get access to the pay-per-view, okay? And
Yeah.
on top of the monthly fee that you pay, or if you paid yearly, the annual fee, you have to still pay $70. And so for it to not be working, it was just wild, dude. People were going off. Uh, so I was just like, dude, you guys gotta know that whenever you have potential high volume events, your servers need to be ready. This is like it's just
Yeah.
like it's basic stuff. Um, but then the actual fight itself, dude, it was crazy. Cause it was so weird. Like McGregor actually came out and he looked solid. Like he looked good. But Poirier, and I respect Poirier, dude. I like Poirier. He's a journeyman, but he's busted his butt to get to where he's at. Dude, ate that leg. Doom. Doom. Kept chopping that leg. Boom. And then finally McGregor just couldn't even stand. I mean, the man was walking out on crutches after the fight. But
Jeez Louise.
yeah, but both were very graceful after the fight. McGregor in defeat and Poirier in victory. So it was good to see. Like it doesn't it doesn't go beyond the cage. Like it's just you're competing, and hey, so you win some, you lose some, but you
You live
know,
to fight another day.
yeah, exactly. So it was good.
Pops.
It was good, dude. Good time. Oh, it was my dude. Oh, I told you, it was my fiance's dad's birthday yesterday, so we went to their house, and his cooking is next level, dude. Like the way he gets on the grill. I'm honestly, how do you like your steak?
Me, I am more of a medium
Okay,
type
so
of
you.
medium rare type of guy, But
Oh, okay.
to be honest with you, I mean, my wife and I go back and forth about this. I'm not really a big steak guy, so
Oh, okay.
it's not even one of those things that I'm like really looking out of like, oh, it's pink, it's not pink, So it's not really that big of a deal for me. But I know people go crazy for it. I know.
Yeah. Well, I think he made steak yesterday insane. It's always medium. Like he could do it however you want. Medium well. I mean, he can even do well done if you want well done, but you'll be chewing for ages. Um, you know.
Yeah,
His medium, I mean, it's insane. I'm gonna make sure I get you a plate one day. They also had, they're Filipinos, so they have a bunch of pancet. They have dude, what's the name of this? It's called menudo, but it's not anything like the Mexican menudo. It's like stew, like pork
yeah.
stew. It's super good, dude. Super good.
Mhm.
Uh I had crab. His Korean barbecue is wild, dude. So one day I'm gonna get you a plate. So that's what we were doing yesterday. Went to their house, then we came back to mine and we watched the fight. So it was good. Oh, and I watched the movie, of course. So it was good.
Of course. That's crazy, man. It makes you like when you see a dad like that, like that could just throw down in there, like it just really makes you reflect of like what am I
Yeah,
doing in the
of
kitchen?
my own
Like, what I'm
shortcomings
saying? Like
in
what
the kitchen,
what
especially. Yeah,
level am I at? You know what I'm saying? If that's
yeah,
like a high level of like cooking
Hmm.
skill, like where am I at? What am I doing in my life that I'm not learning these tricks of the trade? You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, yeah, when you look at that, you kind of have to just admire that because it's just like, it's just years and years of just
So,
mastering
yep, that craft.
ingredients and just you're
Hmm.
yeah, you're just your way around the kitchen because it's just, I mean, I like to cook too, but it's when you see that, like I went to my it makes me think of one of my friends that he had he's like, oh, you should come over,
Hmm.
something blah blah blah. My dad is about to like do like a carne asada type of thing. And, so my idea of a carne asada is just like, oh, we're just gonna put the steak on there, you know what I'm saying? Just maybe cook some chicken, the rice and beans. Like, no, dog. This fool had built his built his own like smoker, like
Wow.
underground. This one had like
Wow.
he had like one of those like things to like turn the fucking pig over the
Like a
fire and shit.
rotisserie?
Like, yeah, like a rotisserie. He had it in the back. Like it was like you when you go there, like it was just like
Yeah. You
a
went into a
ridiculous
lab,
amount
dude.
of
You
it.
went into a
Yeah,
laboratory.
dude, that man was just in his zone, dog.
Yeah,
You could just see he's just like hella proud, dog. You know what I'm saying?
for
It's like, okay,
sure.
that's that. I would like to get to that level at one point in my life where I'm just like, where my son can feel proud to like be like, yeah, you should come over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
my
my
dad's
dad's about
gonna
to go
cook.
down on the grill. He's about to,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? I want to get to that level, but I don't know.
No, I mean, I think at least I think out of the few that I know, well, maybe I mean Anderson, I think can grill too, but I'd say you're probably up there as far as like grill master. I'd say at least out of my kind of group of friends, I think you're up there. Maybe you and Henderson. Definitely our
Yeah,
boy Silv.
Silv
He
is definitely up there as well.
nah, man. That fool's at the bottom, bro. That man almost brought down the whole house. All right. Bless his heart. Uh, but that man almost brought down the whole house. But it's funny, like that whole thing you were talking about, like you wish you could cook, or like you would like to one day be able to cook really well. Uh, that's that's the thing I had to deal with when I first met my fiance, and she was telling me about her dad, and her dad is from a region in the Philippines called Pampanga, and
Hmm.
they're known for their cooking, right? And at least from what everyone tells me, and based on his cooking, it sounds like it seems to be very true. And so she was telling me like how well he cooked, and as I met more people from her family, they all said the same thing. So then eventually we just got on the topic about cooking and me cooking, and so I lied and I said I could cook. And
Oh Lord.
and I don't know
Did
if
you
you
take your
remember.
famous turkey recipe?
Okay, so that's where it came from, dude. I told her, like,
Uh,
back then, I told her for Thanksgiving I was gonna make a turkey bacon, no, yeah, a bacon covered turkey, and she was like, "No, you're not." And I told myself, "Okay, no, I have to make it now, because now, like, I can't just Google a picture and then send it to her. That would look
yeah,
terrible."
yeah,
So then I remember spending the whole day making it. Like my dad and I, we were in the kitchen. We're like, dude, this thing is a catastrophe. How are we're like, we were trying to figure this, and
we're
I
we're inviting people over.
we're my this is not the first, yeah, and this was my first attempt at trying to actually cook. And and I was like, shoot, when I saw how gigantic the turkey was, because like you don't think about these things, at least when I was that young. And I'm like, oh, this thing is little. When I brought it out, and I'm like, we're gonna need a lot of bacon. And it ended up being trash, but I learned my lesson. I think if I were to do it again, I would do a better job. The problem I had was that the bacon was too dry, so the juice didn't seep into the turkey, and that's where I failed. But it's all good. Like we said earlier, you learn from these type of failures. But then the cat
Yeah.
was out of the bag. She saw that I couldn't really cook to save my life. Um,
Well,
so
it's good you didn't put yourself in the hole, like, say like, hey, come over, family of my fiance. I'm gonna throw down in the kitchen myself. You know what
I
I'm saying?
know
A good thing you didn't do that. So
I was close though, because
yeah,
she was like, "Well,
you
what
kind
are
of
you
have to
really?"
know your limitations,
You're right.
limitations ambassadors, if you ever get into that position, you kind of have to know your limitations. Yeah.
Hmm.
Don't over, if you got one, this is what I've been doing at parties. Like if I know that I'm good at making something like that I think is good, I'll just stick with that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you want an appetizer? All right, I'll bring you an appetizer that I know I'm good at. But like definitely not like over
Extend
promising of
yourself,
like,
right?
yeah, you're
Over.
about to have the yeah, you're not about to have the greatest steak in the world, you know?
Yeah, dude.
So just
And
you
that's the
kind of have
thing.
to know that. But that was
You're
hella funny, dude.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is, dude, I am terrible. Like all I can make really is like eggs, bake like a continental breakfast and barely a good one. Like a 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 type of breakfast that you'd find at a generic diner.
Yeah.
Like so but you know, I would like to pick it up one day, like really learn how to get, throw down in the kitchen. On the grill especially,
Yeah.
dude, you know? Like uh yeah. All right. Well, we do have a movie to talk about. We did
We do.
watch
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Super Broly. Um give me one word to summarize this movie.
I would say Scouter.
Scouter. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Uh I would say let's say peak, maximum. It's peak for sure. Um
Mm.
you see me. Uh yeah, what okay, so Scouter, go ahead, elaborate.
I just thought like a Scouter because like it was such like it's so funny to think that like at certain point in Dragon Ball, like the Scouter was like a really big like thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, where they're like, oh, energy levels and like blah blah blah. But like they're getting to a point now in the series where like scouters are just becoming irrelevant and
Oh
like
yeah.
they can't even read the amount of power that like Goku or Vegeta or Broly has. That it's just
Hmm.
like, why do we have this still? You know, so like it's like an outdated like technology, but yet there's still like some importance to it. And I don't know, I feel like that kind of sums up a little bit of the film. Like it's kind of outdated. Like that I think Broly is a little outdated, but he's still kind of relevant to what's happening.
Yeah.
And this is their attempt at making him relevant. So
Very
yeah, it's
interesting.
kind of like it's kind of like using like an iPhone 5 still. You know what I'm saying? Like you're still like in denial that there's not net new technology. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't need it. I don't need it. But it's just like all right,
Yeah,
you know
right.
you want the new features, dog, but
Right.
you're just fighting it. So
Like you're still using the GPS that you could buy separately that you would hook up
correct,
to the
yeah. You know what I'm
windshield
saying?
like this.
Like you like have that in the car. You know what I'm saying? Like you have that feature in the car, and it's like, come on, dog, you're not gonna use that ever.
Yeah. uh that's an interesting take. And I know Chilai, like she clearly was not, her and Lomo, they clearly were not running into the most menacing fighters or uh individuals across the galaxy if like they were
Yeah.
still relying on the scouter. um
Mm-hmm.
so I found it funny, but that's an interesting take. To me, I say peak because I think everything about this movie, well, not so peak because I feel there are some pieces of this movie that's just peak Dragon Ball. Like I thought the animation was the best I've seen in a Dragon Ball you know episode, or whether it's a series or a movie. I just thought it was so fluid. I thought it was so um visually, like aesthetically pleasing. Um, they didn't stick to like a very rigid design, which I don't necessarily mind. Uh, but they almost gave it like this very like fluid type of look, which I really appreciated. Uh, and then I just felt for me those first 25 minutes, like first 25-30 minutes, when we're getting that backstory, that not only does it set up the movie, or at least the kind of story of Paragus and Broly trying to avenge or trying to get revenge against Vegeta, but it's to me that's the best part of the movie. That's the that's what elevates the movie for me. Those first 25 to 30 minutes where we get like a snap, or like we get to see a look into the Saiyan, life, the Saiyan world. I love seeing Planet Vegeta. I love seeing like the Saiyans interacting with one another. Um, I just felt like I I haven't I haven't I've never seen that type of insight into the Saiyan backstory. Even with the super or the Bardock special, I felt like it was obviously more focused around Bardock and his team. Um, and but there was limited, I thought, interactions with the other Saiyans. Um, so yeah, to me it was, in terms of power, obviously it's peak. In terms of the right word's not storytelling, but for me, captivating emotion, especially in those first 30 minutes, I thought that was, some of the best I've seen in these movies that we've been watching. So, I almost felt like there were two movies. There's the first 30 minutes and then the rest of the movie. And then almost, yeah, and then like the end of the movie, you know. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it, you know. Yeah, I thought it was good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I remember going. So, I mean, just a little backstory too of like, so we seen this movie when it came out. We saw it when we went to theaters, and so this is so when I watched this movie again, it really brought back the memories of that film because I don't remember much about it, but I did remember leaving thinking of like, man, that beginning of the film was actually pretty good. And at that point, I hadn't really seen Bardock. I hadn't really seen Broly. I hadn't really seen. Is actually the film that kind of got me back into Dragon Ball again because I hadn't seen it in a long ass time. So
Mhm.
seeing this again, I'm kind of new to the story, almost all of it. So it's now seeing these movies like it did through this podcast, it gives me a little bit more context as to what's happening and like just to see some of the things that they did, some really subtle things and just some really intentional things about how to set up the story. But yeah, man, that first 30 minutes, I would even say it's an hour to be honest with you. I think the first hour is just mostly exposition and just explaining what's happening with the characters and like why we should care and who they are. I thought it was pretty good, what I'm saying? Like I thought it was funny that, one of the very first scenes is we see the two studs, the two kings,
Dude,
face
okay.
to face. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And like, I just love but they did some really cool shots though, which I really like that. I don't know if you caught this, but there were some cool shots where like, when King Cold was in front of the Saiyans and then like the camera was almost at an angle
Uh-huh.
and they were kind of looking up to the Frieza family, like
Oh.
just kind of almost adding that layer of like they're subordinate, they're lower than
Mhm.
this class that just showed up, and I loved how like it almost felt really grand. It was really they did such a good job at just making some of these points really grand and really big, and I really enjoyed that. Like like one of my favorite parts in the film was like King Vegeta thought thinking he was tight, and like he having his boys like already scoping out the scene and stuff, and
Oh,
then
yeah, yeah,
Frieza is
yeah.
just kind of like, Frieza just kind of just looks around. He's like, oh, I see them over there, and I see them over there, and I'll
Yep.
see them later, and then boom, just kind of just takes them out with that, just
One
and just
shot.
Frieza just like. yeah, just one shot on them, and then Frieza just being so cold, you know what I'm saying? Like just from the jump, like they did such a good job. And we've said this about other films where like they try to do this, they try to reenact moments like this where they're trying to have the villain come off as like cold and like really ruthless.
Mhm.
And there's something about Frieza that when he does it, it just adds like another layer to him. And I'm not really sure as to what exactly it is because I was
Mhm.
looking at this scene and it's like you're talking about the very first like 10 minutes of the film, like
Yep.
first 5 minutes of the film
Mhm.
where he comes on the stage, like he comes on the screen and he's just different than everybody. You can just tell he's just different, you know what I'm saying? Like he, he's just
He's
cut from a different cloth, like even from
Mhm.
his dad, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just he just maneuvers different and like
Mhm.
there's like a aura around him, almost like a myth about him, or like there's like these layers of him that aren't necessarily explicitly like said or shown, but you kind of just know, you know what I'm saying? And like
Right.
and I thought that first like instance where he does that, where he kills the dudes in the towers, like I thought it was like a beautiful shot of just like, and again, the scouters coming into play, right? Of like
Mhm.
he's using the scouters like for like a genuine reason. That's one of my biggest beefs with scouters is that like it's just literally for like a character to just look at the power level and they never do anything about it other than like, oh, let's move to there because they're there.
Mhm.
No, Frieza uses it like to actually like for what its purpose is, which is like, oh, I see somebody, okay,
Take them
boom,
out.
you know what I'm
Boom.
saying? Like
Yeah.
take them
Very
out, you know what I'm saying?
tactical.
Like that. So it's just really tactical in the way that he uses it, and I just love it because he doesn't use it like everybody else,
Yep.
you know. And that's just an instance of like this, just the tech. Just using it differently.
Yep.
He just moves different, you know.
Right. And that's yeah, Frieza, he has that charisma, dude. He had because there's a slight arrogance to him. He obviously has that ruthlessness. Uh he's got so much swag. Like he's almost I mean, he's a mastermind, you know. He's masterful in every move that he makes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's definitely for me one of the best characters. I mean, he had a line later in the movie where he's talking to Paragus and he's like, and when Broly's fighting Vegeta and he's talking to Paragus and Paragus, he's like, this is his first time fighting a human, huh? That Frieza asked Paragus, and Paragus says, yes, well, he used to train with me. Unless, you know, the only time he fought a human was when he,
Yeah, yeah, that was funny.
yeah,
Yeah,
was
yeah,
when he
yeah.
was training with me.
Uh,
And then he says, well, that was mean. That, well, yes, that is meaningless. Or he's like, that was meaningless.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and he's so cold.
He's
Or,
so funny though.
or there's a scene where like it's uh Broly and I think Go is no, not Broly and Gogeta. It's Broly and Goku. They're going at it, and like Broly, like his rage has just overtaken, and he launches a massive attack that creates like a huge wave, like a crazy ripple. And you see Frieza, he like puts his barrier on, and he like blatantly ignores Paragus, and he just saves himself, and Paragus
Mhm.
gets blown away. I was hella laughing because that's Frieza. Like you can think he's on your team, but he's really not. Like he's he's always trying to get his own, you know. He's in it for his own gain, and he's not really uh shy about that. So he just has that like charisma, all these different elements always working with him. So yeah, I thought he was Frieza was good.
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't
definitely one of the shining stars. But I will say that I thought he was a shining star in the beginning of the film. I actually, uh, I mean, I get why he's there and I get what he's trying to do, but I thought that to me was probably one of the downfall. Like that's one of the knocks that I have on the film. Like Frieza's like intention or motivation, which is to gather the Dragon Balls to become 5 centimeters taller. Like that to me was just kind of like, I don't really like that. You know what I'm saying? Like all of this happened because this man wanted to be taller,
right.
and that is one of the knocks that I have on the film where Frieza's like you know his introduction and like the way he is, like I loved it. You know, I loved the way he was introduced. I loved the way he moves, you know. um and what he does to Saiyans, is ruthless, and the way he just kind of just maneuvers, right?
Mhm.
But that motivation I thought was just not there. I thought it was kind of bland. I thought it was a little
R
cheap to go
Mhm.
that way. But then again, it's an anime, so it's they're not trying to
So
take it serious. But then again, I would love
so
I would love Frieza to just be serious at like certain points.
so it's good that you touched on that because I actually wrote that here. I put like I also wasn't feeling the reason why Bulma and Frieza want the Dragon Balls, right? But then I put, although it could be like a slight jab at kind of how society is today, where there's such a over infatuation with physical appearance and like everyone and their
Mm-hmm.
mom has a plastic surgeon nowadays. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was like, well, that could be, you know, maybe it was their way of trying to be funny, or maybe it was like kind of a slight jab. It doesn't necessarily work with the context of the movie, like to make the stakes higher. Um, but I was just like, it could be kind of a slight jab on like how modern society is today in a way, right? Like where I actually think if people had a wish they could make, I think a lot of people would probably make a wish to change something about their physical appearance because there's such a like
Mm-hmm.
in nowadays. But I don't know, right? Like that was just something I was thinking about, and it still doesn't necessarily make the film more um like it doesn't raise the stakes, but that was kind of how I started thinking about it. That was the 300 IQ coming into play. um
Yeah,
yeah
like a social commentary. I mean, there's a couple of pieces in here that I think that they are social commentaries. I think that's one of them.
yeah
While it's not necessarily like the clearest, and it's not necessarily like uh, not the strongest critique, but I can see why you could deduce it to that, or like you can come to that conclusion. You know what I'm saying? Of
right,
like their motivations being
so
that. I just
superficial,
think
right?
that within the
Hmm.
yeah, within like the grandiose like event that we're about to like embark on, which is
Right,
this big fight, like what I'm saying, it just kind of feels like it doesn't fit. And I think that that's
right.
kind of the thing that, like, yeah, it's cool for a social commentary. There is another social commentary that I think I'm going to get to a little bit later, and that involves Broly, which I think that would have been a much. I think that they should have played this up a lot more, because which is the, and I mean it's real subtle, but I don't know if you caught it, but it's the thing around Broly's neck.
Yeah, the
Like to me, like the shock collar,
mhm.
like to me, that's a social commentary. And I don't know if we're gonna get into Broly right now, because I kind of want to get into Paragus,
Okay.
and like kind of just like the beginning of Paragus.
Hmm.
What you think of him? Because I kind of like the original Paragus.
Did you? I thought, I thought, I thought Paragus, he he has. I mean, compared to the original Paragus, I definitely think this Paragus is um like a step below. Uh, because the other Paragus had crafted this entire like plan. He had devised this entire plan where this one, while still being a mastermind, like he was still the guy in control. He was just in control of Broly, and he was barely in control. Like he seemed more ruthless than strategic because in this one, now granted, he wants to avenge, or he wants revenge on Vegeta for sending his son to another planet because he wants his son to die. Uh but it felt like it wasn't strategic. Like he was kind of everything was off the cuff, and he was just winging it
Mm-hmm.
every single time. Like, I mean, the Paragus from the other
Yeah.
movie, I don't think he would have been caught in this scenario where he's stranded on a planet. It kind of worked for the movie in a way, but yeah, that Paragus, he was like, he was so masterful with his strategy that he had, like I said, he had built this world. Like his whole plan was very it was
Elaborate.
very developed, right? And Where this one, it
Mhm.
felt like he was just kind of going with it and whatever came. I mean, even to survive, he kills the other Saiyan. What's the dude's name? I forget. Like everything just seems so improvised. But I still
Yeah.
liked him. I mean, I still thought, you know, he's he's a where the first one we said if Paragus didn't exist, the movie would not have held up. This one, I don't think that's the case. Like I still think the movie, because it had so many different layers, I think the movie would have still been really good, even if Paragus was just a caricature of what he was supposed to be. I still think
Mhm.
Paragus was pivotal, like in this movie for creating Broly. But it's interesting, or we'll get to the Broly part in a minute. But I can see you're iffy on Paragus in this one.
Yeah, Paracus, like to me, like I really enjoyed the original one. I thought the Paracus in that one was uh yes, he was more elaborate, but what I liked about that one in the first Broly, the original Broly, was that he was kind of like the mouthpiece, right?
Hmm.
He's kind of like the mouthpiece of Broly, because Broly couldn't really talk. He was not like really. He was just kind of like the brute, and he was kind of talking. And in this one, Paragus doesn't really do much of that, and but there are some aspects that I kind of did like about him, which was that they were kind of intentional about showing his love for Broly. Like he went out of his way to go get his son. He went
Right.
to that planet and he stranded with his son, and I like that. I like that he showed that part because in the other one they didn't really show that, like that compassionate, like really empathetic, like character for his son, and then this one he did. But what I don't understand, and I think that they just kind of just flew by it, was like they never really described like at what point does Paragus kind of like what's his cutoff with his son, of like what like how much can he tolerate in regards to Broly's power and like his own relationship with that. Because to me, I kind of read this scenario where it's kind of like the dad living out the dreams through the son type of deal.
Right.
You know what I'm
That
saying? Like
thing.
like that
That's the
like
worst
that
type
like
of
that.
parent, right? They try to live their dreams
Yeah,
through their
right.
through their child.
Yeah, and I feel like the film didn't really necessarily do a really good job as to what I mean, I know Paragus is trying to get revenge, but like I didn't feel like that was such a clear connection. Like, where does their relationship, like when he gets older, does it get to a point where he needs to put the shot collar on him? You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish they would have included a little bit more of that so that I would have gotten a little bit more context as to like why he's so mean and kind of like ruthless towards Broly. Because Broly, when he's in his normal state, is kind of really submissive. Kind of shy, kind of not really wanting to
He's
engage. So
awkward,
like
right?
yeah, he's a little awkward. So like what like I look at him and so then what how does Paragus like get to that point where he just kind of like decides to put the shot collar on him,
So
So
I think I.
so
Mhm.
yeah, so I like the original Paragus. This one's not bad, but I like the original one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, the other thing is, and to answer your question, like when is it that he has to like control Broly's power? I think it's when he turns into a great ape, and he kind of references it when he's talking to Chi, like in the whatever they're at, like the little bistro or like dining area. And he turns into a great ape and he has to cut his tail off. Um, but the other thing about Paragus is it doesn't seem like the connection to for revenge or is at the it's not there. Like it's not as strong for me as opposed to the first
Mm-hmm.
one. Like the first one, that was his reason for being. In this one, I mean, I think by the time he's found by Chilai and Lomo, like I think they're just in survival mode. They don't even care about Vegeta at that point. They're just trying to survive,
Yeah.
and it's not like they're on a quest to find Vegeta. They happen to, the stars align for them, and they find Vegeta. But but it was almost like that was just a subplot. It wasn't the main plot, right? Where it was in the first one. Um, but you know, Paragus to me, he's still, while he's not the, what I would say, like a the 10 out of 10 that he was in the first one. I still think he's really solid, and I still think he has that nice a nice dynamic there where he has a son, and like you said, we see pieces where he cares for Broly. Like him not being so strategic and just jumping, like getting on a ship to go save his son, and he even tells, man, I can't believe I'm forgetting to say his name, or he even tells him like, I need to go get my son. I mean, that is kind of realistically how a father would act if their child was being, exiled or like thrown out or whatever, sent away. They would they wouldn't be like, all right, hold up, let's take a step back, let's devise this elaborate plan, because by that time, who knows like what will happen to your child or your son. So I think it was more relatable, but in that, it meant that his character would be less strategic and uh, less masterful. Um, but solid character. I still think solid character for sure. Um, but
Yeah, yeah,
hey,
yeah.
before we get to Broly though, I
I
wanted to
like the inclusion of.
go ahead.
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I just really quickly, I also like the inclusion of Bardock. It was cool to see my guy up there again,
Okay,
on the
that's what I
big
was gonna.
screen. I thought it was oh, okay, yeah. I just wanted to mention that. Maybe you can add something else, but it was enjoyable to see Bardock in the film. I thought the way he went out was way more redeemable than the way that he went out in the original Bardock special.
Right. I was, and that's what I was gonna get to. Like, what did you think about Bardock? Um, and yeah, I agree, man. He's a great character. I think he is he is Paragus 2.0, or actually, I think I think he's the Paragus is the meme version of Bardock. You know that meme where it says, "Mom, can we have Bardock?" And mom says, "We have Bardock at home."
Mm,
Bardock at home is Paragus, because Bardock,
okay.
when he's in the ship being called back to planet Vegeta, he already starts to suspect some things, and he's very introspective. Like there's that. I love how you see the difference. Like it's subtle. I don't know necessarily that it's intentional, but you see the difference, like between the low class and the higher class, right? Where Bard Goku, his little pod is just in the flatlands. It's in
The
the in
back
the
room.
yeah, right. And where
Hmm.
Vegeta, he had his own, and he was like on a literal pedestal. You know, um,
Yeah.
and and Goku was like a late bloomer. He didn't seem intimidating at all. Like they didn't they didn't see anything necessarily special in him. Although Bardock said there was like latent power there, um, and it was I like seeing Bardock. You know, him being introspective in the film, him being almost one step ahead of the game, and him being selfless. Like I like the interaction. I like seeing Gine. I felt like seeing Goku's
Yeah.
mom.
Hmm.
They seem like such a lovable couple. Like that's the most affection I've seen between uh, a couple in the entire Dragon Ball world, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, for
you know what
sure.
I'm saying? So I like that part where Bardock goes back to his house, and he asks how him and Gine are interacting, and he asks how Bardock's doing, how Raditz is doing. Um, I liked it, man. I felt it was very like wholesome. It was nice to see this brutal warrior that like has that kind of side to him.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I completely agree. I think he's a great addition, saying to the story, and I'm glad that they wrote him in to so that we acknowledge that he's dead, what I'm saying, and that he's part of the story, and I thought he added an emotional layer that I think was needed, and I like the fact that it was done towards the beginning of the film because it allows you again, one, it elevates Frieza's ruthlessness,
Mm-hmm.
right? It elevates it, and then two, I think it also elevates of just how much Goku is just aligned, or just like, or not aligned, but maybe he's destined to be something great. You know what I'm saying? Of like that they are just gonna send him to, they even say it of like it's just low power on Earth, they have low technology, like we're just gonna send him there and he's gonna know how to survive. And let's just send him there, he's gonna just know how to do it. And just the belief in their son, I thought that was really beautiful. I thought the scene of, him leaving on the pod was an emotional one.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought they did a really good job in regards to setting up the emotion. I personally though kind of like the 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 scene in the original one where the pods kind of go
Oh
like
yeah, they cross each other. Yeah.
he's going to the planet. Yeah, he's going to a planet and then he's not, but
Right.
and he's going the opposite way, which to me, like, that's kind of what the scene, they took that scene out and they put this scene in,
Mm-hmm.
like to
Mm-hmm.
add that level. But it was cool. It was cool to also hear the dialogue behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was one of my things that I said in that film when we watched it, of like, I wish we could have seen Bardock, say bye or do
Mm-hmm.
something in regards to that. And so I'm kind of glad that they wrote that in. But I kind of like the other one,
Right.
two separate destinies, two separate paths. Uh, but
Exactly.
but it was still a beautiful shot. I like that. I like that scene. It was one of the strongest scenes in the film, in my opinion.
And there's a little piece in there where he's carrying the pod, and Guinea's kind of like, she's obviously super flustered, and she's kind of like, "Are you sure about this? What's going on? Like, why don't we all fly together?" And he's composed, like he's accepted his faith and his fate, and he's the reason why I say a poor man's or Paragus is a poor man's Bardock is because Bardock is he's willing to sacrifice himself for his son, and he's while he's also a killing machine, like there's no way around it. There's that moment where he's carrying the pod and he's like, he says it kind of to Guinea, or he says it to Guinea, and it feels like he's talking to you, where he's like, you know I've been killing all my life. Like, we kill and we sell,
Mhm.
we take over planets and we sell them, and I've been killing all my life. I'd like to do something good for once. Um, and I thought that was really cool. It added that layer of this isn't just a guy who's taking orders to kill. Like, that's the world he's in, and but don't think that he's just this kind of brain dead robot, right? Like, he
Mhm.
knows that he has a what is it, like, you know when you when an internal conflict with yourself, and he kind of is trying to, even if it's just this one thing, he's going to try to do something redeemable. Um and I really like that, and I felt, I don't dude, I was kind of like, I thought it was a little emotional when the planet was eviscerating, and the
Yeah.
Saiyans basically were being met with their fate. And
Yeah.
because I felt like these characters, especially Guinea seems so almost not like a Saiyan, so lovable. And she was, obviously crying and stuff when she saw Goku leaving. Uh and yeah, like it just, to me, it was definitely a big like shining star in this movie. That whole, Bardock, even if it's not, he's not carried throughout the entire movie. Like, if they ever did a movie on Planet Vegeta, I think it would,
Mhm.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that that first hour they did a great job. I'm telling you, they did a great job just setting out that story. I think they had a good combination of just like uh a little comedy, but a little bit of like heart, you know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
like a lot of just exposition, and just like exposition done really well, just really good storytelling. I think this is probably the best story, like how you said, of just storytelling. Like this is probably like some of the best that I've seen, like just writing wise. So
Yeah,
it was really nice to see. But man, we should get into Broly though, because now we can. I think we've talked enough
the side. Yeah,
about what's coming
I mean
up. But
he's the main
let's get into
draw,
Broly. You know, our he is the main draw. You know, and one of my biggest beefs with the original Broly's was that he was kind of just like he didn't talk, and
right?
he didn't really have a backstory. Um, and
And
here they give us a backstory.
they did.
And
And
what
let me ask you this before you go into. I'm gonna give you the floor in a bit. Um, do you think that? Because I think this Broly's better than the last one, and I think you do too. If I know you,
Of course,
um,
yeah, for sure.
do you
Mhm.
think that this Broly's improvement, if you will, is at the expense of Paragus?
Uh, yeah, probably, yeah. I would say so. Yeah, because I think that they try to be a little bit more intentional about, you know, having him talk a little bit more and like sharing his story a little bit more. So, yeah, I think so. I think it comes at the expense of that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think in this Broly, like what I see from him is, I mean, I mean, they just really like him just not talking. So maybe that's just something that I have to just accept. And I feel like their attempt at showing his backstory, while it was nice, I think the only thing that I really enjoyed about his backstory was the fur, the ear, you know, like that little story that he tells about his friend, the big giant fur
mhm,
like monster in the planet. Um, I thought to me that was like probably the one of the shining parts in his story. Just because it adds another layer to Broly. To be honest with you though, I think that they felt they put themselves in the same hole they did last time, where they allowed other characters to speak for him, and while while that's good on some aspects, there are some aspects where I'm like, yeah, but then there's still not this like the connection between, because when I see Broly, I see a tortured soul. I
mhm.
see somebody that is really innocent, and
Yes,
he's being taken advantage of. You know, he's being taken advantage of by people around him, and that's to me one of the. I think it's a dope story if it's developed, but there's there's not really a lot of emphasis in showing his like tenderness and his like his softness that would I think would add another element to the viewer, at least in my humble opinion, so that when we see him get shocked or we see him get uh, brutalized, the way he's being brutalized, there's almost like an emotion attached to that because you know that it's wrong. He's an innocent young man that he's being, you know, he's being exiled for no reason other than the
right.
fact that a grown man is afraid that he's going to be stronger than his son. And I think that the film attempts to do that, but it's
It
just so
doesn't go
short,
all
and
in.
you know, it doesn't go all in. It just kind of thinks that by adding that little mini story that that's going to be enough to get us to be empathetic with Broly. And and I think that, you know, while it does that a little bit, I think that they could have gone a little bit deeper, you know.
Right.
It makes me think of that shot collar, you know, that shot collar. I think they could have focused more on that, like the shot collar being a symbol of submissiveness,
Hmm.
a symbol of mind control. You know, there's a. It reminds me of this story, and as I was watching it yesterday, and I was doing some, you know, a bit a little research about this. Like, and this is another subtle thing. You know, how you said about a social commentary. There's this story in philosophy about this man that walks by a group of elephants, and one of the elephants has a tiny rope attached to its leg,
Hmm.
and it's really tiny. And
Uh-huh.
if you don't know anything about elephants, elephants are probably one of the strongest animals in the animal world, right? Like
Yep.
they're humongous. They're beasts. It could
Mm.
literally just uproot that whole structure that it's attached to,
Mhm.
but it doesn't move.
Huh.
Even and it's just attached to that really small string. And in the story, the man asks the trainer, like, why isn't the elephant moving? And the trainer's like, well, since they're babies, they get put there, and then they put the string around its foot. And as it grows older, it becomes accustomed to that string, and
Mm.
it thinks that it can't move it. It thinks that it can't be greater than it is, even though
Mhm.
it could destroy the whole structure. The submissiveness and the mind control that you're doing on this elephant, this really strong like animal, is this little tiny string. And
Right.
so when I see Broly, and it's a metaphor for life, right? Of like, what beliefs are you holding on to that are stopping you from being
Mhm.
great, from the thing that you actually are, right? Like, what string is holding you back in
Mhm.
regards to whether it's a really small string or it's a really tight string or a really strong string. Like, what is holding you back to become who you really want to be? So when I look at Broly, like, that's who I see, you know,
Yep.
like there's this invisible like string holding him back.
Yep.
And I wish they would just dive into that more. You know what I'm
And
saying? Like, that's the one
right.
thing that I left feeling of like, man, I wish they would just do
Unsatisfied
that with
with.
him,
Right.
because that's gonna be a deeper character for him.
Right. And nah, I mean, really, I agree with what you're saying. Although I think me personally, I'm a little higher on Broly than maybe you are. Just judge. I don't think you don't like Broly. I think you do. I think you wish you would have seen more of his like struggles and like how he came to be what he is type of um story. Uh and for me, yeah, I really liked Broly. And I didn't I remember watching the first one, I was like, yeah, Broly's type, but watching it now, I liked him even more. Like everything you said is true. He is this big, intimidating individual, extremely powerful, but he is innocent at his core. And we talked about this in the first episode we ever did when we started reviewing movies, which was uh, sorry, I just thought about Piccolo when he makes a flashback. We'll get to that in a bit. But now hold on,
Oh
hold
Lord.
on. In the first episode we did, we talked about how I didn't like that they they didn't do a good job of showing how Gohan keeps Goku away from the real world because he's not a human. Like he's awkward, right? Like he's not a human, so he shelters him, right? And I think they do a
Mhm,
good job here in showing how awkward Broly is because he's had such a rough upbringing. He grew up in solitude, really, and I mean his friend was that crazy
mhm,
monster, but you know, when you're looking for company and you start getting to levels where you're so lonely, you'll resort to befriending almost anything, like for the sake of not being left alone. And Broly is
yeah,
so innocent, he doesn't know any better. He's just, of course, like children, and as you're growing up, you want friends and you want to be around people, you want to have company, that companionship. Um, because we all need that. And so I like how I agree. And maybe this is what I wrote down. They're they've set the table type of thing. And maybe they'll get into it in the future. But they made Broly awkward. They made Broly submissive. Paragus, at times you're like, um, is he just your master or is he your father? Where in the other one,
mhm,
like the first movie, it was like you knew Paragus was using Broly for his own device, like his own plan, like his to get ahead. And in this one, like we're trying to figure out, okay, Paragus, do you really care about Broly? And I do think he does. But I think he's so afraid of what Broly can become that he becomes the sick helicopter dad. Granted, to the most extreme, ridiculous level, but the helicopter dad, the dad that's like no, or parent, just not even just dad, but parent, where no, just you know, hey, you got to control every little thing they do, and you don't let them be them. Uh,
Yeah.
and even when Broly's trying to talk, like, and they're gonna eat, he tells them, "We're here to eat, Broly, not to talk." And it's like, dude, let him. This is his first time interacting with people. Let him. And there's that moment where Goku binds him when they're fighting, and Goku binds him, and he's kind of stuck. And he's like, I've fought a lot of evil people in my lifetime. I can tell you're not one of them. Like,
Hmm.
you know, it's it's a it's it's nice. It's their way of showing like Broly is really, this is cliche as heck, but Broly is misunderstood, and he hasn't he's grown up in solitude, and the only companionship he has been his dad, who would train with him to fight, you know, or that monster. And so um yeah, man, I I felt like they're setting the table, and there's a part at the end. I guess I'll just get into it, dude. Um did you did you
Hmm.
did you see anything in like that last scene at the end when Chilai and Lomo and Broly are together and then Goku shows up? Or were you just like, ah, this is just another scene?
No, I think I mean we could I mean I mean I don't know where you're going, but what I will say is that I this is probably the most enjoyable I've seen Goku be in a film, probably in a while for me. So I
Mhm,
really enjoyed his character in this film, and I don't think it's by coincidence that he's not actually on screen as much as the other. He's not on the screen that much, so
mhm,
which I think serves its purpose, which I like it. I think when I look at that last scene, I think it's just their opening of like he's going to be involved in Super. So I hope I
mhm,
hope that they do, and I hope that they develop his character and he's involved. Maybe it'll lead to a fusion or something, or
mhm.
them fighting along together
He
somewhere.
joins the squad.
Yeah, he joins the squad. I think I don't know. I like the way it ended. I think it just it allowed Broly to see that there's a different way of being,
Mhm,
and he's learning that different way of being. And I'm excited to see what that becomes. But I hope that they don't do the same thing that they did with Majin Buu, which
mm,
is because that's the same thing that happened to Majin Buu, where Majin Buu didn't know how to like decipher what's good and bad, and then
mhm.
he's just now like he's just like a shell of himself.
Right.
Even though Majin Buu's like ridiculous.
Right. Yeah,
So
he's Hercule's fucking end
so
sidekick.
yeah, so I hope that they don't do that. But
So
what were you gonna say about that
the
last scene?
reason, yeah, this was my favorite. I mean, and there were a lot of things I liked in the movie, but because obviously Goku is my favorite character, and I really did enjoy Broly. At the end of the movie, Broly is surrounded by people that actually want to be around him. That includes Chilai, that includes Lomo, and that includes Goku. Like,
Hmm.
and there's a
Hmm.
calmness in Broly, which if you juxtapose it to when he was on the Frieza spaceship with where he's where with people who just want to use him for their own benefit, there's a that
Hmm.
submissive kind of timid demeanor to him, where here he feels almost more
Yeah.
relaxed. There's a subtle smile he gives when Goku's like, as long as I can come back and keep training with Broly, or like, and I'll train you, Broly. um but then there's at the end where Goku's walking, and I like, the reason I like that was because like Broly sees these people now as, where he grew up by himself, and he was lonely. Now he's starting to form that kind of social circle, and it makes him feel more at peace. But there's a point
Hmm.
right at the end where Chilai's like, "Wait, what's your name?" And he says, "Uh, Goku." And he looks at Broly and he's like, "But Broly, call me Kakarot." And that to me encapsulated so many different things. One, Goku no longer like being ashamed. I don't know if it's a shame, but like fully buying into being a Saiyan. That's the first time he's told someone else to call him Kakarot,
Mm.
and it's like a subtle homage to the the original movies where Broly always said Kakarot, and
Yeah,
like that
right.
was the only
Call
thing
some
he said.
Kakarot. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. So
Yeah.
to me that was I really liked it. It kind of brought things together, and it was like, man, when this series comes back, they've really set the table to where I hope they don't drop the ball. You know what I'm saying? Um,
I hope not either.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But dude, there's so much in this
Yeah, it was. It
movie.
was. It was good.
There's so
Yeah, there
much in
is.
this.
I mean, I think we should get into the fighting. What you think? Because now we've gotten rid of the story part. What you
Mhm.
think of the fighting?
Um, I'm conflicted. I thought aesthetically it was beautiful. Um, I really liked it, even though I know it drew a little bit of criticism for some of the CGI. Um, I didn't necessarily mind it. Uh, the reason why I am a little bit conflicted is because I felt it was so long, like, um,
Mm.
and it was like, man, this fight is really long. Now, granted, this isn't a knock on them because I get it. Like they're building up, not just in the movie, pre the movie release, they were building up Broly, so they want to make sure they deliver. But the fighting felt really drawn out, um, and it was a little long. But what I did like though, there were elements within that I liked. One was Vegeta fighting against Broly. I felt like they actually made Vegeta look like a bad mother effer, even though he still can't hold a candle to Goku, like
Mm-hmm.
because they saved Broly's stronger version for Goku, but they did it in a
Yeah.
way where everything was set up right. Like they wanted Vegeta first and foremost because that's who Paragus wants to destroy. So they go after Vegeta. Of course, Broly is not the Broly we see at the end, so he's not as strong. And Vegeta's toying with them. He's dancing on them. And just him like transforming, uh, it gradually Broly gradually elevated to where he did surpass Vegeta, but it didn't look to me, it didn't seem like a disparaging towards Vegeta. It just felt like
Mm-hmm.
it fit well. But I want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to just because it's such a long fight. I could go on and on.
It is. It is. It is a long fight. And no, I agree with you. I liked Vegeta being first. What I think really worked for Vegeta in this film was that they allowed him to be the one to be really laying down the law. Like he's not getting his ass kicked all like that. Um, but you just see like these little like I just like some of the just like really subtle things that they did, which was like, when Broly first tries to hit someone, he does like a little smirk. And you just
Yeah,
knew that
and
Vegeta
even
was just gonna be cocky. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like he was just gonna be cocky, and like that's the Vegeta that I love, man. That's my guy, dude. Like I
right.
loved him in this film. I thought he was a beast. He was just in control of the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like he was playing with him, and he was like, he was almost like really enjoying. Like you're not shit right now. You're not
Hmm.
anything. I have this other transformation in my bag. Like there's literally nothing you're gonna be able to do. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? He's so like confident in the ability that he has, which I think was really cool because they allowed him to just be there. The only
And
thing that I
even
would say that I didn't like is the transition into Goku because I'm like, why did he stop fighting him?
right, Vegeta
They
still
didn't really
looked
make
like he
that
could
clear.
keep
Goku was
going.
just like, it's just my time to come in. Yeah, yeah. So he looked like Vegeta could still keep going, but Goku was just like, oh, now it's my time. And then now they give it to Goku. That's the
Right.
only thing that I didn't necessarily really like. But I even though it's 40 minutes. Like the fighting itself is
Yeah,
40
dude, it's
minutes.
it's
It's
pretty
a
long.
long, it's a long time to be showing fighting. but I actually kind of liked it. I
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed the fighting in this film, which I don't necessarily find myself saying a lot in these films, but I really liked it. I thought they did some really cool things.
Mhm.
Because then when Goku comes in, they do these shots that, like, if you're not paying attention, you can miss it. But like they did this shot, which I don't think that they've done. I don't think in any film or any parts of the series or something. I believe, but they did like a first person view.
Yeah. Right.
Did you
That
catch
was
that?
cool.
And
I did.
it was through the eyes of Broly. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like something like that. I thought that was really cool. I mean, you could definitely miss that part. It just looks the same, but if you're paying attention to it, that part of the film was pretty cool. I liked it. And you know what? I think my favorite part though about this fighting is I really love the music in this.
Music
Like the
was
music
A1.
the music was just amazing when it came to this fight, like the chanting and like that was just so like it felt so big. It just added such a good layer to the
Mhm.
fighting that I really enjoyed the fighting in this film.
Yep. And, uh, yeah, to me, like I said, the fighting the reason why I'm conflicted is because there are so many good story points in the movie that they could've if you focused on more of the story and maybe a little less fighting, I would have been totally fine. But I understand that, let's say, the average viewer, they also want to see, crazy transformations and fighting and like power. So like I said, it's not a knock. It was it was a little long for me. That said, I felt the way they handled it, like, because Vegeta, he so clearly they don't want to show Vegeta as stronger than Goku. But
Mhm.
what ends up happening with him in like previous films is he looks like he's in this weird spot where he gets tossed around, um and he almost gets he's shown as he's depicted as just fodder sometimes, just kind of
Yeah.
not even worthy of being in the fight, and really they're just there
Yep.
to set up the stage for Goku to come in. But in this one, they handled it so well, like that progression. And like you said, I mean, Vegeta, when he first starts going in and I mean, Broly punches him, and like you said, he smirks, and then he takes his jacket off while he's still in like I thought that was a
Mhm.
cool scene. Um, I like how Paragus they really made Vegeta feel like a bad mother, you know what? Because Paragus, he sees Vegeta and he's like, "Wow, what a formidable opponent." And then he sees him transform, and he succumbs to what he believes is just going to be their fate, which is Vegeta's going to finish this. And
Yeah.
and you get a sense of like, dang, no, Vegeta really is a bad dude. And uh then the transition was strange to Goku for sure. Um, but there are a few subtleties in that fight that I really liked with Goku. One is where Goku binds them and he says like, "I fought a lot of evil people in my lifetime. You're not one of them."
Yeah, I like that too. Mhm.
Um, the other one, if you noticed, was where Broly grabs Goku by the head and he starts dragging him across the ice. Um,
Mhm.
that was something that was kind of like a little homage to the first movie where Broly grabs Gohan and he starts dragging him across the building. Um,
Mhm.
and so I thought that was cool. And then I like when I see Vegeta, it's like, oh, we played around with this guy way too long. We got to team up. And Broly at this point is like at exaggerated levels of power. And they're working together as a team, and even they do that, Kamehameha and Gallic Gun back to back. I thought that was clean.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, they were before we get to that character, uh, hey,
Yeah.
come on, bro. What did you think when I was I started cracking up. I forgot this man was in this film, but tell me what you thought when you saw the boy Pick, that boy Pick.
Last thing before we get to this point though
Okay.
is one last thing that I'll say about the fighting before we get to our guy Piccolo is I really enjoyed how Broly shows his intelligence because I think that this is a good example, a prime example of how smart he is, of the fact that he's able to adapt within the fight to
Right.
learn new techniques, like just
Uh-huh.
that level of intelligence and that level of awareness that I think is so dope. You know what I'm saying? Like he was able to do all of that transforming within the fight. Like he was learning that stuff as he goes, which is a really interesting type of fighting,
They've
where
never done that
he's
with
just
the
learning.
character. Yeah. Which I
No, where as they're fighting, he's like learning transformation. He's learning these
and he's
pieces. So I thought
adapting.
that was
Yeah.
really, yeah. Yeah. The fighting I thought was great. Okay, but let's get to my guy.
Yeah. And there's that other character, obviously, which was another one of the big draws in the movie that I did want to touch on also.
Who Gogeta?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But first go ahead, Piccolo.
Were you talking about Gogeta or were you talking about Piccolo?
Well, yeah, when I was like that other character, I was talking about Gogeta. I was like, first let's get to Piccolo. But anyways,
Oh, okay. So, well, you want to talk about Piccolo or Gogeta?
let's do Piccolo, dude.
Okay, Piccolo. Okay, so I was waiting to see when this movie was gonna screw it up. Of like when are they gonna just bring my guy in to save the day? I'm surprised Gohan wasn't in here, but uh to me, this section of the film, while I understand it, and it's an homage, if you pay attention, it's also an homage to Fusion Reborn, the way they pretty much did it scene for scene of the way they did it in that film, where they were trying to get the transformation off. So it's like,
uh,
it looks very identical to what they did, right? They couldn't do it in the first three tries, and so if you watch for Fusion Reborn, you'd see that it's a very similar scene. Um, but I thought this scene was kind of useless. I didn't really think that it was necessary. While I understand it, why they did it, I thought it was a little pointless. I feel like they just kind of forced them in there. And what I will say is, though, Piccolo's getting to a point of acceptance, which is what we've been talking
exactly.
about, where he's just like, I don't want to show up because I feel like I'm just going to be. What do you say? He said, I wrote it down because I'm like, okay, my guy's getting to a
He
level
says
where
he's just gonna get in the way.
there you go. Yeah. So he's starting to understand his role. You know what I'm saying? Like he's starting to understand, and
It
I think that is a good progression for him, where he is finally just like, I- he knows he's gonna get in the way, dog.
I mean, dude, if there was ever like a blatant slight at Piccolo, it was this. I mean, that is as vicious as it gets for a warrior to be like, it's admirable in a way because he knows his limitations now. He knows this has gone way beyond like his level of power.
Yeah, this is
But
way beyond him.
yeah,
Like Goku, God, Vegeta they're God
yeah,
level right now.
exactly.
No
And
reason Piccolo should be there.
right, dude.
Literally no reason he should ever step foot on that fight.
Exactly, dude. And so I was just like, I cracked up when I saw Piccolo, dude. And I don't know that that was necessarily in a good way. But then the writers were kind of like, nah, we know Piccolo is not gonna add anything to this fight. So
Yeah.
we're just literally gonna say like, you know, and he's become the King Kai in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
he becomes where he I don't even know where the hell he is, but he's somewhere where Goku and Vegeta teleport to, and then he's coaching them to which is okay because he also coached Goten and Trunks, but it was just like this really put the nail in the coffin. At least that's what it feels like for the boy Piccolo, and
Yeah, no, this is. I mean, it's great. It's great. I mean, he's
yeah,
starting to see his role, and I think
yeah,
that this is a good thing.
because
He started to understand his role. That it's getting out of hand.
yeah, and I think
It's
that's why
getting
they
out of hand.
they introduced Broly like, okay, Broly's gonna join the squad in the future, I think. And now we have a dude that I'm sorry, Piccolo, dude. You're gonna be on the bench for now. But I think he'll have his spot. Like I think he will have his spot. But yeah,
He's a coach. He's the
yeah,
coach.
you're a
He's the
coach.
assistant coach.
He's the assistant,
He's the
dude. Yeah,
assistant coach. So, and that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. He
yeah.
should
It's
be the
just a
coach.
shame for me personally, but yeah.
Of course, that's my guy.
You
But
know,
dude, we have to just admit that it's gotten out of hand.
yeah,
He
it's
can't
way
be out there
way.
anymore.
I mean, hey, he for a Namekian, he did great, man. But
Yeah.
it's time for him to bow out.
Well,
Um,
yeah. But what did you think? Did you like that scene? Because I think it was kind of a pointless scene. I
Oh,
mean,
did I
not
think it was
pointless, but
pointless?
I thought it was.
Um, okay. Uh, so one of my biggest gripes with this film is some of the comedy. I felt I felt fell flat, and I felt there were times where they were trying to do like they were trying to incorporate some comedy, which they did in this particular scene, and it just didn't resonate with me. Did I think it was pointless? Somewhat, because it felt like they were forcing Piccolo in here. Like we hadn't seen Piccolo prior to this. At least he had not played any type of significant role, and
Mhm.
you know, it almost felt like they wanted to go out of their way to have Piccolo do something. Um, and so they
Yeah,
made him just be like we said, the coach. Uh, but I'm not gonna say it was pointless, but I think it fell flat, like because
yeah,
you know, and that was something I was gonna say a little later. But one of my biggest gripes with this film was I felt like the comedy was hit or miss. I, for me, the comedy when it's at its peak, it's when it's driven by you know those characters like Oolong, characters like Jocko, characters like Yajirobe, these characters who they are they're like we say, they're survivors, but they're not warriors. They know how to
yeah.
survive,
Mhm.
and they're at the absolute bottom of the barrel. Um, and they bring the comic relief, but for me, like if it's not Frieza, some of the like comedic points weren't really hitting for me. And I felt like there was a lot of that in this particular scene, and it just kind of like, I don't know, it didn't resonate with me. um
Yeah, it was interesting to see this scene again because, like I said, if you've seen Fusion Reborn, then this scene looks very familiar to you because they did it in that movie.
mhm,
But I remember when we did our review of Fusion Reborn, you were like, "I love that scene because it really showed like Goku and Vegeta having to work together, but they know that they're not blah blah blah." There was like
mhm.
tension there. In this movie, because they redid that scene, it didn't work. I felt confused as to why Vegeta was so against doing it. I'm like, dog, you just fought Jiren. You just got out of the tournament of power. You're
Yeah,
fighting this animal, and you've done the fusion before. So, like, what are you against right now? Like, it doesn't fit. To me, it didn't fit his antagonizing not doing, or like his like point
right,
of not doing it. Like, to me, like it didn't fit well with what was happening,
right.
like his like I don't know what's the word, like I guess his like not wanting to do it. I don't know.
Yeah,
There
like
is a word for it, but his
right,
resistance to it. There you go.
right. uh and I feel like what they tried to play on was him feeling like it looked like he'd be making a fool of himself, where and that's not enough like for me to carry
But
that
this is
reasoning.
super dog. This
Yeah.
is super dog. He did a dance with in the Beerus movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
and
He's done it before.
the
Like,
reason
what are we
exactly,
talking
like
about?
you made a fool of yourself before. And the reason why I thought it worked really well in the Fusion Reborn one, in my opinion, is because at that point, Vegeta, while yes, he's fighting side by side with Goku, he still views Goku as a low class warrior. And he's like how am I, the Prince of Saiyans, gonna fuse with someone who's beneath me in the hierarchy of the
Hmm.
Saiyan world. And that I can understand, like I can get with. So he has that internal battle. uh in this one it's like, dude, literally no one's here except Goku and Piccolo. uh no one's
Yep.
gonna see you. And so I thought it fell flat. Uh but one of the other big draws was obviously Gogeta. And
Yeah.
while he doesn't get a lot of screen time, um, you know, how did you, within the context of him not having a lot of screen time, did you find him enjoyable? Meh, not like you weren't
No,
feeling him
I
at
think
all.
he was great. I mean, just like Fusion Reborn, I think that they so this is what I liked kind of about the film too, is that like it does do a lot of fan, if you've seen other movies and you know what the hell's going on, like they do a lot of things here to like pay, respect to older films and like,
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool to be on the in that aspect,
right,
something like like Gogeta like does some of those same moves he did in the other film
right,
and in Fusion Reborn and I said in that film that I thought the fact that he had such a small screen time really helped his character. And in this film, he also had a short amount of time in the screen, and I
mm,
thought it was great. I thought it was great. I love the way that he looked. I like the way that he fought, and he didn't really talk all like that. And he just kind of came in, handled his business, and just I'm out of here.
right.
And that's what I think a fusion should do. It shouldn't have to be, this really long piece. I like the fact that it was just kind of like, okay, we're not playing anymore. This is done. We're about to handle it. It's
For
about to be
sure.
out of here.
Because if Gogeta's struggling, then we've lost the plot, dude. I mean, he's
Pretty
got to,
much. Yep.
like then this has gone out of our hands. Then even Piccolo and Vegeta just themselves can't finish this dude off. Um, yeah, Gogeta, he has this conundrum, right? It's like this catch 22. Him and Vegito, they'll never be these deep characters by design because they're fusions and they have a limit to how long they can be in that transformed state. And so you'll never
Yeah.
get like a super layered character. So understanding those different handicaps that the writers have to work with, I thought I like this Gogeta dude. He had that cockiness to him, like a little swagger, but not
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
so they didn't like I don't know, they didn't go out of their way to try to make Gogeta the focal point here. They already
Hmm.
had an hour and a half worth of story and like and screen time that Gogeta was just the frosting on the or the cherry on top, and they did it really
Yeah.
well. And I thought like he was ramping up also, and as he's ramping up, you're like, damn, there's levels to this. Like he's definitely starting to surpass Broly. Like gradually as they're fighting, you can see Gogeta is just taking it to another level. And by the end, he's toying with him. Like Broly hits him with everything he's got, and Gogeta's smirking. He's like he dodges it and he's smirking and he's dancing on him. And then he's like, and then even Whis, he's like, I have a feeling this is gonna end here. And you can see Gogeta's like, all right, I'm done playing. And he's about to that Kamehameha looked like it was gonna obliterate Broly. And
Hmm.
obviously Chilai say or wishes him back to his home planet. But I thought it was cool. I thought his inclusion was cool. I thought they handled it really well. Like I said,
Yeah.
given the different handicaps that fusions will always have, just by design. Uh,
Yeah, they shouldn't have to be deep characters. The deep characters should be the ones forming the fusion. And I think that that's
exactly.
kind of what I don't really. So I think that's the difference, right? It's like when you see Gotenks, to me, Gotenks is a deeper character than Trunks and Goten for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Like like it's a weird thing. Maybe because they've allowed them to be in fusion a little bit longer, and maybe they realize that maybe they're more likable or more interesting if they're just put together as opposed to them individually. But with
Hmm.
Goku and Vegeta, I mean, we've had years with just them by themselves, so we don't necessarily need a deep Gogeta or a Vegito.
Right.
Um, and I kind of like I like the fact that Gogeta, he's a beast, and he kind
Yeah,
of just comes in. It almost feels like just a different level of what they could be.
exactly. Um, but shit, dude, we've been talking for a minute now. Should we? And I feel like
Yeah,
there's still
let's wrap
more
it
that
up.
we could still talk about, but you want to get
Yeah,
to
let's
what the
wrap it
folks are
up. It's
saying?
been a minute. Yeah, let's do that. So reviews. I mean, this movie, it's highly regarded. So it's a
Right.
big it's a big film
Mm-hmm.
in regards to bringing back a character that they wanted. So let me start off with 5 star. Okay, So this is by Sergio. A movie that stays true to the Dragon Ball roots we all love. Broly finally has a reason to be mad, and this time we can relate with his suffering and not
Hmm.
just wait to see him die. The only drawback is Bardock's story. The original was perfect, but
Oh.
showing him with his wife being a family man doesn't help portray the savage side of Saiyans as a
Mm.
TV special. All right, another 5 star by Jordan. Dragon Ball Super Broly not only has by leaps and bounds the best animation and action in the franchise, but possibly the best writing as well. We've seen the destruction of countless planets before, but never like this. Planet Vegeta's destruction could truly move you to tears. Broly is also a vast improvement from his previous incarnation, being the first antagonist in the franchise you truly feel sorry for.
Mhm.
Okay, so those are some highlights, and this is a 1 star review. This is by Gregory. By far the
Gregory.
worst Broly film to date. Close to an hour. The the original movie is remastered. So he's saying that the first hour is just a remastered of the original movies. The plot is basically the same, just more offensive to any decent fan of the franchise.
Jesus,
I
dude,
gave
I
this
think
I gave the yeah. And then the other one, another a 1 star one was 2019. This is by Poinla. Character design is simpler, even naive. It looks really childish, and the story doesn't even stick with the original. If you haven't seen the 90s DVD, DBZ films, just watch them. They're better than this crap, especially the character design and details.
yeah, see, I don't know about 2019 and Gregory. I'm gonna have to disagree, but it's funny. Like, it's there's still gonna be critical reviews. Which, hey, you know what? Everyone has their opinion, and that's totally fine. But I want to hear what you have to say, dude. What are you thinking? Like, how'd you feel about this?
I really enjoyed this film. I didn't think that, the first time that I saw it, I was kind of like, yeah, it was okay. But watching it again, I really enjoyed it. I would say that for me, my rating, I would give this a 7. This is probably
Yeah.
one of the best films that I've seen in
Yep.
the Dragon Ball, catalog so far in the films. So to me, it's a solid movie. It's really good. I liked a lot of points of it. Some of the knocks that I have, they're knocks, but they're not super knocks. Like
Right.
again, like I said, the music is amazing. I thought the fighting looked really good. I thought the first hour was really strong. Um, so there's a lot more positives than there are negatives. So I would say this is a 7. However, it is with a disclaimer. I do think that if this is a film that you're trying to show to somebody to try to get them into it, even though it's a really good film, I think that it would be wise to watch Bardock, the original one, Broly, the
Hmm.
original one, and if you want a little bit more, like if you want to get a little bit more on Gogeta, probably Fusion Reborn, just to get a little bit more acquainted with some of the things, because they do a lot of things. Like the first part of the film, it's cool because they're trying to acquaint people that maybe have never watched Dragon Ball. But then once you get to the second hour, they do a lot of things that are like homages or like pieces
Hmm.
back to older films that if you don't know, they kind of get lost, and it kind of seems out of like the ordinary that they're doing it. So that's the one disclaimer that I will say is that I think you should watch this film after you've seen some of the other films.
Yep. Yeah. And I agree with everything you said. Like, for me, the knocks I had on the film, like, they're just not major enough to really put a dent in this film. Like, the comedic relief, like, okay, it's not enough. There were so many good story points, and there were, like you said, there's homages, there's little nuggets that they drop. Like, I thought the animation, the music was great. Like, this, like I said earlier or at the beginning, the word I chose to describe this was peak. So that's why I also think this is a 7 out of 7. I mean, yeah, to me, this is and about the best Dragon Ball movie that I can think of that I've watched. I really obviously enjoyed, the history of Trunks, and I obviously enjoyed the Wrath of the Dragon. Um, but to me, it was just there were so many different plot points and they used the hour and 45 minutes a lot better than they did with like Battle of the Gods. To me,
Mhm.
like that movie, it almost felt like they were trying to fill it in with stuff. And this one, man, they could make a sequel. Like they could have made this a two-part movie, and because there was a lot there. And so, yeah, 7 out of 7. I agree, though. If you to really grasp the entire movie, I do think there should be a little bit of context, and you should watch some of the other movies. Even I do think Bardock, watching um, the original Broly movies and the Fusion Reborn
No,
would be
wait,
good.
now, whoa, not the original, all of the Broly's, just no, just one, dog. Don't
Well,
make our
here's the
viewers
nah,
watch
because
Broly two.
here's the reason
Nah,
why.
nah, Broly two, no one needs to see that again.
But
No
here's the
one, no one needs to see that. Why would they need to see
because
the second?
you need to set Broly 2. It shows you how far Broly goes off the rails. Like it shows you the improvement that this Broly is on the original Broly. It sets the floor, like the absolute floor for what Broly was. And so it'll give you a stronger appreciation for this Broly and this movie. So yes, I think you should watch all the Broly movies, even Bio Broly. Bio Broly almost feels like its own thing though. It does, but still, like I would
Yeah,
watch them. Um, but yeah, dude, good stuff. I felt like this was we could have kept going, but um,
yeah, it's
we'll
a long
wrap it
ass
up.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long ass episode. Yeah.
uh,
It's a
hey,
long
hey,
ass
dude. Hey,
episode.
I'm
Well,
excited
thanks
to
for hanging in there with us. If you
for
stay with
sure.
us,
I'm excited to see what they do when they come back because they got a
yeah.
nice. This is the last Dragon Ball Super we've seen on screens. So I want to see if they're gonna go like the Moro route or if they're gonna start trying to incorporate Broly. Because I feel like they have something here. Be nice to see. Um, but we'll wrap it up, dude. Any final thoughts before I we exit?
No.
Yeah. So, um, like Chewing said, if you've stayed with us the entire hour and a half or however long this has been, we thank you. You know, we thank you for your listenership. Um, it was fun reviewing the movie, talking about it. We enjoyed watching it. Let us know what you thought. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were we way off with our review? Uh, you can. We'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions about it. And yeah, with that, you can find all our social media down in the description. You could listen to us on the different podcast platforms. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And yeah, we'll be back next week with some more Dragon Ball content. So until then, adios.